upset. I'm gonna be so upset.
I would have windmill slammed the content if I had. You are. I don't think this is going to get much better, so I think I'm just going to do this now. Let's twin twister. It is for one, but
it's for one.
Just want to pave the way here. We got
that. So dynamicious.
I love dynamicious. Interesting. We'll fire the string button.
Okay. When do I activate this Omega?
You tell me.
When do I Omega leave? Utopia has to attack them.
Yes. This is one downside. I can't just smack him.
I'm just gonna get this guy out of the way. I don't think he's gonna. Fine. I feel like
that's my trigger.
I feel like you don't sound too upset about it.
I mean, I'm kind of bummed about it, but it could skip it first. I'm very happy you didn't hit this.
Oh, imagine. Oh, you can get another hat trick. Don't worry about it. That's better than.
You know, gambling works so well in games. I get the opportunity.
I'm all for it, all for it.
I actually do have to because you don't have anything, and I just get slightly.
Oh, I forgot to update my voiceless voice. Hopefully we'll be fine. We're perfectly fine.
Okay, I'll go on. I thought you were gonna go for like some sort of crazy Lumina thing or something like that. Oh.
I mean, I could still potentially do that. Here's what we're gonna gamble.
The recharge! Oh, no!
No!
Two hands wrapped.
Was that...
No, it wasn't it. No,
I got wait. Life is good. I thought it was the end of the game.
That
was... It seemed like that was the card that was gonna make or break it.
Well...
Fellow voiceless voice player.
With a bit of help. We can still get there with a bit of help.
No way, he's going for it again? He's going for it again? Right?
Let's see if we're the luckiest man on the planet. I'm gonna detach this wall. Oh, we got a draw! We're so good! Okay, it's not exactly what I wanted, but it'll do.
Honestly, they most likely just have more starters. I don't know.
Yeah, you gotta deal with him now, too. Point.
Boy, Ash Blossom. This is what they're starting with.
So irritating. Oh, that's pissing me off. Okay. Let's do. We're gonna get Omega back. Where's my transmigration from? That doesn't even work. But I need a burial from a different dimension. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, they had another
solid
starter. That's to be expected.
I'm going to. If you haven't noticed, I had a normal summon, and I was kind of hoping I would have drawn something.
Oh wow, Machine Angel. They're also playing this variant.
Let's just go ahead and yeah, I think I have it. All right, we're gonna run out this Goblin. Not the best card that I want to do.
I mean, if you got another level 4, it's pretty good.
I do, but we're just gonna hit you for 30.
Not using Saphira.
Oh, okay. Alright.
Just wanna get some damage in.
I can't tell you how
Light and Darkness Dragon.
Got punched by a goblin.
I usually go for the
doesn't do anything when tributed.
So this will make sense here. I do have a Gold Sark.
Oh, for the Rex, got it.
Yeah, Rex can't attack directly, which is like kind of the only bad thing about this card.
Might be your new signature card, Alex. The giant Rex, bro.
But it worked. Then I do have somewhat of a way to manage this. It's not going to be pretty, but it is going to give me some time. Let's get another Miller out here that you're fond of.
Okay, a little ball I like the
chain action. I'm gonna go ahead and use the effects. Let's detach the Rex. And
not ritualing with Saphira. Well, they've already done everything they needed.
Yeah. Okay.
We will set a card face down. And I think our...
Let's try the destruction thingy.
Alright, I've got work to do.
You do, but your setup's pretty good. Not super happy about it.
Alright, Omega comes back, and you get your hat trigger. I know you've been dying to have it.
Trying to find that kill shot?
Yeah, either that or a way to clean off, like, everything. Doesn't look like it's coming natural, though. Alright, I'm gonna
Minerva
start
makes it tougher.
by normal summoning Unizombie. As all powerful plays start. Okay. It's like the best I got it. I'm gonna activate the Unizombie effect, and I am going to target a monster on the field and increase its level. Alright, I'm going to increase Unizombie by a level here.
Are you using the hand effect or the deck?
That's the deck effect. Hold on. I was gonna say you don't have anything. Stop it. Alright, that's gonna allow me to send another Mizuki. Alright, I'm only locked into zombies now, so I guess you got me a little bit screwed. Either I hit the hat trigger again or I hit something else. Amazing.
He's so good.
I'm gonna activate this Mizuki in the graveyard. It's gonna let me spend summon back one of these monsters here. My choice is going to be the Lady in my...
Ooh. Looks like you're setting up a big machine. That's fine.
Okay, bring her out in defense position. Alright, well now, it's the problem again. I'm gonna Synchro Summon, Alex. I'm gonna make Black Rose Dragon. I'm gonna hope that it's the field here. I thought so long of a different play to make, and I just can't bring myself to do it. It doesn't feel right. So this feels like the only way I'm gonna be able to dismantle this board. Sure, worked out. What was that background? It wasn't. Well, kind of.
I was gonna say, I would call it a bluff, but I mean, you're not really playing a back row deck, so I wasn't expecting much to really happen. I do have some triggers, so I think we're probably... let's go for Minerva 1 and Trick Cloud 2. So Minerva can mill and not have to destroy it.
Yep.
So I guess we will bring out 2-0-0 no matter what. Sure, bring out the Cloud. Defense.
No. Well, one time, put
Come on, good mills, good mills, good mills.
No. Get another one. Game hates me, bro. I can't believe it.
I had to make sure that I didn't destroy my Trick Cloud, because Minerva destroys any card on the field. Destroy cards on the field up to the number of life zones. Yep, it's not just opponent's cards. That would have technically worked. Alright, good. Go on. Continue.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm trying, bro. Oh man, I don't know if I could beat that. One thing, dude, it's actually not even all these monsters you're putting up. It's that fucking...
This fucking...
That's why I said her. She's so good. So good. Such a
Blue Eye.
Still got another Mizuki, though.
I do. I'm thinking how I want to use it. Alright, I figured it out. I'm gonna activate him. Mr. Mizuki. I'm telling you, a Link 1 would have been hitting right now. A Link Karibo would have been so crazy. No.
Don't like to see that.
Normal too. You started this turn with that Unizombie.
I'm just gonna select this White Prince team.
Okay.
I'm gonna throw him in defense. That couldn't have been the choice. I had to get rid of this Trick Clown. I feel like I punted. I feel like that might be the end of the game. Be gentle with me. I know you don't have it.
You're just passing?
So I know.
Oh my god, he's passing.
Buster
To be
Blade.
fair, you might just be cooked regardless.
Yeah, I think if I made, like, if I brought a monster to kill your Trick Clown, it doesn't still look good for me.
Yeah.
So, we'll see.
Nope.
Maybe he's
I
merciful.
also just realized, fun interaction. I think I could have brought my 1,000 blades back too, but because I made
Buster
Minerva
Blader has
cheap,
good protection. Can't have that.
It's a when you can. It's literally
Nice.
when you can.
Classic,
It's
bro.
so funny. Classic
You've
card.
been playing this game for years, Bozo.
I have been. To be fair, it's not likely that ever happens, but that's why I think you're cooking. We're just gonna snow now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's get all the spells. Those. I'm playing Magical Explosion. And not only do we get our snow back, but we also get our lovely giant Rex back. That's why.
They were playing around Lightning Storm. That's pretty good, I suppose.
There's a shot.
There is a shot. Oh, I don't think there's a shot anymore, buddy, when I activate Free.
Oh, well, there's still a shot. You could draw 2 of nothing.
I guess that's true, and honestly, looking at what I drew, it is kind of 2 of nothing.
Let's go!
It's kind of shit.
Let's go!
Alright, how do I... No, White Prince... Is White Prince just goes to graveyard?
Yeah, just
is
send the graveyard. Send it.
That's crazy. What a wild card. I'm finding it.
No.
Alright, well, let's do
What?
the
God
problem
fucking damn it.
Let's
Fine then.
1, 2.
I guess that's the card we're putting in.
Game 1.
Familiar face, yeah.
We will use his effects. Get this guy out of here. No trigger for you. Maximum value off of our Trick Clown. This time we
God
will be
damn
using
it.
fucking timing with our 1,000 points. Thank you very much. Alright, and this is way over 6. I don't think
I'm glad you didn't count, bro. No way you would like perish me like that. Oh, you do that game when I was so close to fucking crushing your puny skull. You would have not even expected it. Ah, tragic.
Good game, buddy. Good. What was in your hand? Just a bunch of normal summons?
I've got a King of the Skull Serpent and a Lady in White. Dude,
But
I was trying so hard to snap into the Matrix and, like, define a way to stick like a 7,000 attack game and attack like you do. But it's all that damn fairy tale snow. I can't beat it. Just put it in the deck. It's game over.
Yeah, as soon as you activated the effect of the Unizombie to lock you into only attacking with zombies, I didn't care what you did the entire turn. I'm just gonna snow whatever you like try to threaten me with, because if the turn passes and I still have the Bobble Chain Minerva, the game is over. Like, it's just 100%. I don't even care that you Black Rose me. I had so much setup for the next turn that I'm like, as long as I survive, that's all that matters.
I was trying so hard to set up Patricia, and there was like a line that did it, but he used like everything I had, and I like
snow to ruin it.
I couldn't bring myself. It just didn't feel like the right play. But looking back, I think maybe it was, because it would at least pull that snow out of the graveyard, you know, get some other things cooking. But you live and you learn.
Yeah, and I guess never punished for soul recharging away the right.
Yeah, right.
Dumb of me, but so my thinking was, if I just get a lucky mill and I get 8 mobs, because I had the Goblin Bird, right? If I got another monster summoned off the Goblin Bird, I'm pretty sure I could have like almost killed you, or just got to the point. You're asking about my back row. I was actually playing Treacherous Travel. So there was a world where my end board would have been like Minerva, Dweller,
what happened?
Rakuja, and basically in that position,
I can still negate.
I stop your brave setup with Mizuki. I have Treacherous for like your Omega potentially. If you try to go to battle phase, I'll happily take out one of my own monsters to get Omega dies.
Yeah.
And then Minerva's gonna survive in the game until Minerva resolves her turn. So and plus Snow, but I picked Snow instead, because that just gave me the best chance of surviving anyway. Plus, it set up really well with Rex. So, yeah, I really like this deck. And courtesy of the new ban list for September, which we're abiding by, Charge the Light Brigade went to 3, which is a lot of fun. And in the Mega Tins, in the previous episode, I have now a full set of Solitaire. So, before I wasn't playing the zombie version of this deck, but now we have access to the zombie stuff, and I think that takes this to a completely different level.
Yeah, something cool with the new list myself is I saw Burial from a different dimension with it too. Could you imagine another iconic moment where I bring that thing up 3,000 attack? You would have been shitting yourself. You know?
What if you did it twice? What if you had like 6 Spanish Skull Surfers?
Like, guy? Oh my goodness.
That would be crazy. That would be crack. But what about? I would ask about your polls, but it's legendary.
Yeah, I thought I honestly got I think all like the good cards out of it. Funny enough, like I did get like the Gear Free guy. I got the Red Eyes Black Baby Dragon thing. I got a lot of really like I guess decent cards out of it for what it's worth.
Yeah, indeed. For as good as I think, funny enough, Red Eyes Fusion is the only thing we care about.
Yeah, right.
To be honest,
nice comment. I got like Ultra
Super. Yeah. And its previous breaking was a Super Gun. Yeah, but nice to have that for later.
Negating that will do nothing.
I got the
can still be tributed.
You must be fucking that heal for
Can't wait, no? God,
maybe I gotta ban something. I gotta ban.
Yikes.
So, I'm taking friend, that's still bad.
I don't know what
I understand the feeling, buddy.
I don't think you can get 1,000. It's like, good game. Spooky season with reviews and so far. Welcome. Guys, that's gonna wrap it up for another video. Wait, let's go ahead and jump this roll. We're just about to shout for 10 Hero X3, and makes you play with no change photo camera. From guys from the start, and the men home in little baby, Draconic Silver Hunter, JW1186, Brian Dancer, A7, Michael Dad, People all it's Cheeks and Blacker, Scope and Ambulance, Wonder Wall, MBT Cancel by Soup Cancel by Windy Soup Cancel by Later Soup, Porzine, Absalom, Angrish, Peacock, Edison Bud, Daniel Howell, and Mike. Solid judgment, I hope it's dreams. Thank you all so much for watching. We will see you next time.
They're setting. Ashtira. This bluff is worthless, they know what it is. Yikes. What happened to Kashtira preparations? Are you fucking kidding me right now? Emperor. They impermed my Emperor. Outplayed.
The largest creators on YouTube, found himself a little bit of hot water routine. Hey, from the deplorable behavior of this type of surfacing allegations, scams, illegal lotteries, and mistreatment of contestants, recipients, and employees posed by former
Wait, why do I have Elder N? Ah, yeah, I guess I still have one copy of
However, I'm
her.
here to talk about really plenty of other people are covering it. I wouldn't want to just take everything else. But I really want to talk about why Mr. Beast's channel, corporation, not action. Full disclosure, I will not be action any or anyone who is mentioned in this video. I think in the spirit of charity, that approach would be pretty uncharitable. This video's purpose is not to be a drama video, but to discuss a particular philosophical lens for why Mr. Beast's channel is not a charity. I will not be taking a primarily economic stance that other people will mention, though I think it is somewhat relevant to bring up. If that interests you, I would highly recommend watching until the end of this video. If not, though, you can click on any of the other Mr. Beast Does videos sidebar. My personal recommendation would be to check out the Ackman's recent video because he covered it pretty comprehensively. Charity. This has been the largest offense I've seen from Mr. Beast's supporters. And yes, all of these recent implications and controversies are bad, but it doesn't take away from the fact that he's done positive things. And if you look at it from a certain level, it may seem that way. Some individuals might have better lives now than they did before because they met Mr. Beast. Prominent examples would be cataract surgeries or the water wells in Africa. I do not doubt that some of these people have lives by those actions. However, I do doubt how much charity is going on in the literal and spiritual sense. As someone who's just a guy on the internet, I try to keep certain aspects of my personal life a little more private. I know many other big YouTubers who are incredibly generous in the amount of charity they do for their parishes, synagogues, and local communities. Many of these people will never get an ounce of recognition from the public square, and quite honestly, that's okay. Because for most people, there's something deeper going on about why the charity is done. I think in the internet age, when everything is moving so fast, we can barely keep track of what's going on during the day, it's valuable to take a step back and go to the classical thinkers who have tackled these questions ages before us. A wise man once told me, never let an opportunity to talk about Dante slip by, and that's exactly what I'll be doing today. I'm going to do this because Dante and I both belong to the largest and greatest charitable organization in the history of human civilization, the Catholic Church. See, it's in the final work of one of Italy's greatest poets that we can find one of the clearest definitions of charity. I've covered how this guy has inspired some works that I enjoy myself, but that was only based on his most famous piece, the Inferno. Dante's Inferno is a distorted and graphic depiction about what the vows of selfishness look like. However, many don't read beyond the Inferno, often forgetting it's an integral piece of what could be considered the best trilogy of fiction. After Dante travels through hell, he journeys up Mount Purgatory and ascends through heaven. And it is at this final stop on his journey that I would like to take this discussion. While Inferno and Purgatorio have so many good and wonderful topics to discuss, Paradiso is my favorite. As a culmination of Dante's life as a poet, you see the best and sometimes most incomprehensible imagery become vividly displayed. While the previous two entries tackled the consequences and purification of the 7 deadly sins, lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, and pride, Paradiso focuses on the inverse, the 4 cardinal virtues, prudence, courage, justice, and temperance, and the 3 theological virtues, faith, hope, and charity. Dante's incredible journey is a focal point for many philosophical discussions, from Aristotle to Aquinas, among which the most clear and important are the topics of virtue. The greatest of all virtues is charity. So to determine if what Mr. Beast is doing is real charity, we first need to define what a virtue is. Virtue is a habitual and firm disposition to good. It allows a person to not only perform good acts, but to give the best of himself. A virtuous person tends toward the good with all his sensory and spiritual power. He pursues the good, chooses it in concrete action. Love is the greatest of all virtues, and intrinsically tied to charity. Virtues inherently involve other people and a spiritual creator, so we should love our neighbors and ourselves for the love of that creator. Even in the pagan world of ancient Greece, Aristotle had this concept beginning to form when he talked about the 4 types of love. Eros, the love of passion; philia, the love of friends; storge, the love of parents towards children; and agape, the love of mankind. Agape is the type of love we should look at for this discussion. Love is often defined as willing the good of another, but how does one do that? One possible way is through acts of charity. Charity tends to include the caveat of self-sacrifice for someone else. The act of giving oneself for the sake of another is love, the agape. The philosophy of Aristotle was woven into the threads connecting many of Dante's works. The Divine Comedy includes an entire cantica of love. Love, the force that can move the sun and the other stars. The constant use of the Italian word amor at pivotal moments throughout the story is evidence of this. However, carita, the Italian word for charity, is used much more sparsely, and particularly when Dante has to define what charity actually means. After witnessing and defining the other 6 virtues, Dante is reminded and then questioned by St. John the Evangelist about the meaning of charity in the 26th canto of Paradiso. Dante uses his physical blindness in this moment to represent how charity should be done. Removing one of his 5 senses is a physical representation of the self-sacrifice needed for charity, but also the blind will of heart that one must have to do charity. When you give to many charitable causes, you are never 100% sure where exactly that money is going. This is a large problem for certain exploitative religious communities or greedy corporations. And while all merely human institutions are corruptible by sin, having your charitable actions be based on something higher than your own self-interest or vainglory is absolutely necessary to understanding how charity is a theological virtue. The relationship that one has with your fellow man and the Creator has to be blind of false forms of love that can distract your mind. As Dante puts it, turn the human heart to God, all run as one with my own charity, my being, and the being of the world, the death that he sustained, so that I might live. The hope that all with me, trust and faith, the living knowledge that I have spoken of, all drew me from the waves of wrongful love and set me on the shores of righteousness.
One of the greatest signs of charity to our neighbor is to transmit him truth. Because is love, not imposing. It's love, but transmitting is sharing. This is one of the greatest signs of charity.
Once concentrated on God, charity can be understood to be a contemplation and a vision that brings delight at the presence of the divine and permits us a union of friendship with the purpose for that divine. This is exactly why I wanted to focus on this specific canto of a 700-year-old poem, because that's a very clear definition of what charity is. Charitable acts have a presence in the physical world, but also supernatural effects. A purely secular worldview when it comes to charity does not benefit the soul. That perspective doesn't inherently recognize the beauty inside a fellow human being that Dante expresses when his blindness is cured and Beatrice is revealed to him once again. Charity's nature, as the most important of all virtues, encapsulates faith, hope, and the other cardinal virtues. They all build off of each other. Let's wrap this back around to Mr. Beast. For the aforementioned reasons, I do not believe what Mr. Beast is doing on his channel could actually be considered charity. While the Mr. Beast Corporation would never claim to explicitly be a charity, the entire public persona of the brand is about charity. This is how the channel, for a long time, has been able to deflect a large amount of criticism. While I do think some of the previous criticisms, especially the kind that are made from RedTube, are a bit mean-spirited and unwarranted, people are now coming to realize that the motives behind this channel are a bit more malicious than previously thought. By willingly creating charity events to create a successful business and earn more money from the charity than the amount actually given away, one might claim that his priorities are a bit disordered in the most literal sense of the term. So it's easy for us to say what's wrong with the Mr. Beast brand, but I think a constructive thing to discuss would be how to mend it. I wouldn't say totally fix it. There are things that he can do that would bring it in the right direction. And I want to see channels with themes and positive messages succeed on YouTube. That was part of the reason I moved this channel's direction towards positive material. Public acts of charity do, to some degree, inspire other people, so he needs to focus in on the clear purpose of his charity if he's going to make it public. But before that, though, at the time of writing this script, Mr. Beast has not made a single formal apology about the Chris Tyson situation or the Dogpack 404 allegations. Jimmy really has a chance to show us his character with how he responds. Obviously, he's going to need the facts, the receipts, the legal advice to make a good case to the audience. But I'm more interested in him doing a bit of self-reflection, frequently from the darkest moments. People can really humble themselves in ways that you wouldn't really expect. And I think Jimmy might be in that position now where he can take a look here and really address what is he doing this for? The love of his fellow man, and by proxy a creator, or just for himself? One route is selfless, while the other is selfish. I don't say that scornfully, as many people have been blasting him for a myriad of these issues, but I say this sorrowfully, knowing that if I were in the same position as him, I would pretty easily be corrupted by such things like greed, vainglory, etc. I will continue to pray for him and all the people who may have been wronged by him and his associates' past actions. Hey, but this is YouTube, where brain rot content has taken over, and people willing to stop for a moment and think about the nuances and deeper implications in such situations are being left behind by an algorithm seeking more dopamine-inducing sources of clicks. The whole point of me making this video is to show you a new perspective on acts of charity. And this could be a generational shift in the YouTube landscape. As YouTube has gotten much more safe, there is a certain benefit it has to keep Mr. Beast at #1. The brand safety veneer to the advertisers is that charity is the #1 thing on YouTube. That's starting to wear off, so we could be on the precipice of another apocalypse. But for the foreseeable future, I will continue making content about things that are on my mind, and I want to share with you, like this very video. I do hope you enjoyed it and learned something. Please leave your thoughts down in the comments below. I promise the next video will be less theologically heavy, because I know these deeper discussions about the minutiae of Dante are pretty niche. God bless, and I'll see you all next time.
Despite coming in at almost a halfway point, and not even really getting her own focus episode a la Zuko alone, Sokka's Master, or the Southern Raiders, she still undergoes a total transformation by the end of the series. And all of that, I think, is primarily conveyed through metal, a skill that comes from not just power, but her own deepest vulnerabilities. I think a good place to start is to first contextualize where Toph comes into the story. I'd wager that for most of us, rewatching the show for like the 300th time, it does kind of feel like she is just always there, right? I mean, she's a core part of Team Avatar, of course she's always there. But no, as crazy as it sounds, Zuko is already long into his redemption arc and Azula in her assassin arc before Toph even exists. It's not until the second quarter of Book 2 that we even meet her, and it'd be a handful of more episodes until we actually begin to understand her. So, even from this super meta point of view, she's immediately facing an uphill battle of just trying to catch up to the rest of the gang. But when she does arrive, oh boy, does she have a presence.
Whenever you're ready, the Pebble.
The episode, The Blind Bandits, immediately establishes the often exaggerated and chauvinistic personality of Toph. As we soon learn, however, that is merely a shield she uses to protect herself from the world's assumptions. From the very beginning, we see others underestimate her. The Boulder immediately notes that he's conflicted about fighting a young blind girl. And Katara too wonders whether the whole blind title is merely a part of her character. All of the first things we hear about Toph from other characters is doubt. Despite her clearly being named as the reigning champion, those first impressions are just too strong. And so yes, even now, everyone still doubts her true ability. Even visually, look at how the scene is framed. The scene opens with this grandiose upward-facing shot of Toph holding up the belt, which naturally makes her look bigger. But it then quickly zooms out, and we see her in this oversized cape next to the announcers that are like twice her size. All of this is meant to portray her as small and weak, about judging her based on looks alone. Toph herself, on the other hand, pulls a good over Mizuno. The moniker of Blind Bandit is a deliberate jab at all of those preconceived notions. She deliberately crafts this persona to deflect those same insults and portray them as purposeful strengths. Yes, she is blind, but she will turn the boulder into nice little pebbles. But more than that, there's the bandits. Her entire life, she was pampered by her parents and forced to fit into that image of this prestigious family. She was told what to wear, how to act, how to talk, even how to walk. Toph simply hated that, and so she becomes this bandit. Instead of the expensive long-sleeve dress, she wears just a simple fighting tunic. She lets her hair just fall in front of her face. She drops the typical Victorian-era ladylike walk and adopts a no-nonsense type of attitude. Everything she does is almost a mirror image of what her parents want her to be. And an extra thing that I think elevates all of that even more is the fact that Toph was actually originally meant to be a tough and brash boy, and was only later changed into the girl Toph that we see in the series. A colossal W to Aaron Ehasz personally, by the way. And also, if you like Aaron's work, and I know you do, he's done some of the best things in Avatar, you should go and watch Dragon Prince. It's like Avatar, but not really Avatar. You'll like it, trust me on this one, go watch it. So the Blind Bandit, being this boyish side if you will, I think even further emphasizes that deliberate rebellion against the lady she was supposed to be, and all of those other expectations of just femininity. She becomes rough and bombastic. She becomes this mysterious bandit who shows up, gets the prize, and just leaves. Very purposely, she leans into those criticisms of her and caricatures them, because that's her way of coping. We see that on full display soon after she joins
I
up
should
with
have
Aang.
placed
Initially, her super independence and closed-out personality just doesn't jive with Team Avatar, like, at all. She doesn't want anyone's help, so she doesn't want anyone else expecting her help either. Which too, I think, ties into that whole mismatch of expectations she has already faced for most of her life. But later in The Runaway, we see Toph talk about just that. She says that, as much as Katara might get on her nerves every now and then, she cares about her, the real her, then saying that it's more than her own mother. But mere moments after opening up, she pulls right back and becomes guarded. She gives Sokka a good old whack and makes him promise to never tell Katara any of it. The true Toph is not the Blind Bandit, nor Toph of the Beifong family, but rather something right in the middle. She wants to be loved and wanted. She wants someone she can depend on and to be depended on. But at the same time, she also doesn't want to feel like she's indebted to anyone. She's more than happy goofing around with Aang and Sokka, because there it feels like they're sort of all on equal footing in their chaotic trio shenanigans. Whenever Katara and her are on screen, however, to Toph, it feels like the balance of power, if you will, has swayed in Katara's favor. But again, being honest with herself, much like we see her vocalizing both The Runaway as well as even the Tales of Ba Sing Se, Toph doesn't necessarily even have a problem with that. She enjoys her time with Katara, and she is thankful that they can look after each other. The only thing she doesn't want is to feel like she's put in some arbitrary box and that she needs to be careful. That immediate apprehension is simply her being defensive, because the only motherly role she's ever had never actually respected her for who she truly was. As with most, well, real people, both of those feelings can be true at the same time, and things can be quite messy. But personally, I think that is exactly what makes her character so compelling. But returning to Book 2, I want to dig a little bit deeper, to Toph's blindness and how that defines her character and eventually mastery of metal bending. And actually, I think the best place to start is with those final words, how it defines her character. Because that's what I think a lot of fiction struggles with. Not just TV shows, but games, books, and just about everything else. When writing a character with a disability of some sorts, you don't really want it to define the entire character because it's just reductive and, to be honest, quite flat and boring. At the same time, though, it's something that requires acknowledgement, right? I think with a lot of media, you see characters fall into those extreme ends where their character is either just reduced to that one trait or the complete opposites. It's written in for seemingly no real reason, or worse yet, it's just parroting some stereotypes. By the way, I think that's where a lot of the weird takes on the internet come from. It's just bad writing, but some twisted into some abstract social issue or something, for some reason, even though it's just like bad writing. But I think the way Avatar explores that is infinitely more mature. Yes, it is a disability that comes with often unfair judgments, but it is also a vital piece of Toph's character that, instead of limiting her, pushes her forward. Not just that, it is also elevated above being some taboo subject that is unpleasant to talk about. And it is also completely integrated in the wider logic of the series and the bending system. It feels natural in this fictional world, it is approached in a very mature manner, and it is also something that is very important for a character. So, let's break those down one by one. Like we talked about with her title of Blind Bandit, it's her lack of sight that defined most of her upbringing and eventually becomes the thing that she rebels against. Her parents were overprotective and constantly coddled her, but all she could do was just run off and cry. That was until she met the Badger Moles, who too were blind and saw another way. Earthbending gave her sight, it gave her hope, it gave her something to strive for, and so much more. Where most people would be satisfied with just solid earthbending, Toph's blindness and all those preconceived notions that people have about her is the thing that constantly pushes her forward. Every day she was looked down upon was another day that she pushed harder and harder, if for nothing more than just spite.
Woo! Toph, you rule.
So, while yes, her blindness does define her character, that is the thing that forces her into action in the first place, it is also turned into an incredibly powerful weapon, while still retaining some important weaknesses to not just brush it under the rug as this purely good thing. There is no miracle cure that suddenly allowed her to see, like, everything. She had to develop her own way of traversing the world. And it's also never touted as just this thing that, it is, and it's not a big deal, and, you shouldn't do anything about it. It is clearly something she's insecure about and something she wants to improve on. In my opinion, that's a good message. Everyone doubts themselves, but if there's something that makes you unhappy, you shouldn't just automatically assume that is the way things are and that nothing will ever change, or better yet, hope for some miracle. No, try to improve on that thing that you feel insecure about. It's not used as a gimmick or just a power-up. It is a realistic exploration of one's weaknesses and how those weaknesses shape them. And so Toph simply uses the in-universe logic of bending to adapt to the world and eventually thrive in it. More on that in a second. And I think another beautiful thing that Avatar does is allowing the characters, and most of all Toph herself, to joke about her blindness. I think this again goes back to that point of not reducing the characters down to just that one trait. I think trying to be overprotective and always treating these things as somehow taboo is sometimes even more disrespectful because it's kind of implying that they can't handle joking about it, right? I don't want to, exactly throw up my own medical records here, but purely speaking from personal experience, in our own friend group, we constantly joke about things that are actually incredibly heavy, and I think that's a good thing. Might be cultural differences or just because we've known each other for an incredibly long time, but throwing out extremely morbid jokes about our own mortality that are likely not even safe for you is just totally normal. It shows a degree of actual understanding that I think supersedes any kind of tiptoeing around the subjects. And perhaps most of all, I think it allows the person who might actually feel isolated from everyone because of their own insecurities to openly talk about them and grow more confidence. Even for the younger audience that Nickelodeon was originally aiming for. I think it's cool to show that it's okay to be different.
I wish I had more variety. Drawing too off of the same hand trap always fucking
By
sucks.
owning it, you allow others to just feel more confidence and comfortable around not tiptoeing around these things. More than likely, it'll also make yourself feel more confidence because it's just not a thing that has this additional baggage that, can't be spoken. And again, I think that's exactly why Toph adopts the blind bandit persona. I think it's her way of saying, yes, I am blind. Now what? She doesn't let it be a weakness that anyone can exploit, nor does she want to portray it as an insecurity. But she's totally fine with joking around about not being able to read or seeing a top oppa, because it's just a thing that is. It is a weakness of hers, and it would be great if that were not the case. But she's done everything she can do to adapt, to continue to focus on the things that she can't would just drag her down. She acknowledges that imperfection and moves on. But okay, why do I bring all this up, and how is it in any way related to Metalman? Well, it's because I think when we meet Toph, she has truly conquered most of those insecurities and flaws she sees in herself. She is a prodigy of an earthbender, she is incredibly independent, perhaps too much so to the point of initially creating friction, and generally, she is just like really, really cool. That is, until we reach the desert. Aside from being just like the coolest thing ever, the library sneaks in a tiny scene at the end that, in my mind, shapes the rest of Toph's character without us even really seeing it. Before venturing into the desert, we see Toph just thriving. She is free from her parents, the adventuring lifestyle suits her just fine, and she can even make herself a very nice little rock tent. In the library and the desert, though, her bending prowess is immediately nullified. Toph and Appa choose to not go into the library because books are, of little interest to Toph, and Appa just doesn't like tight spaces. Problem is, while they're vibing on the outside, Wan Shi Tong goes full Eldritch mode and begins to sweep the library. That is already a pretty big problem because Toph is really inexperienced with sandbending and she now has to fight off literal spirit magic. But it gets worse because then the sandbenders show up and join Appa. And I think it's this entire sequence that once again breaks Toph wide open. For the first time in a very, very long time, she is truly blind. The look on Aang's face as they emerge from the library, her own inability to fight back, to even see what she's fighting, it's horrifying. It puts her right back into that dark cave, all by herself, just crying. She failed as a bender, and she failed to save her friends. Just like her parents, Aang unjustly blames her. He obviously doesn't really mean it, and emotions are just running really high. But despite her saying that she literally couldn't see what's going on, Aang yells that she never cared and never liked Appa.
She can't! You never liked Appa, you wanted him gone!
It's like the absolute worst situation she could be put in, because hadn't she achieved so much? She made a name for herself as an incredible fighter, but with everything Aang says here, it once again makes her feel like lesser, like her blindness is the thing that is making her weak. Without even meaning to, he confirms her worst fears. And the absolute worst part that I only realized on like my 10th rewatch, she can't even see the tears rolling down his face. All she feels is just his anger. She can't see him, she just hears screaming and shouting from even this group of friends who saved her from her miserable life. For the rest of the desert, she is just guided along by Katara. She's quiet, rarely throwing out any sort of sarcastic quips or anything like that. In a cruel twist of fate, she is right back to where she was, constantly being dependent on someone else and hating every second of it. Except, that's not Toph anymore. Sandbending, just like her blindness originally, becomes a catalyst for her development. It becomes the thing pushing her forward. All of us have weaknesses, and some of those weaknesses are often out of your control. But what you can control is how you respond to them. I've already made a video on Aang's journey with earthbending and the sort of stoic worldview that comes with that, so most of those things naturally apply to Toph as well. The thing that allowed her to truly thrive in the world is that unrelenting pursuit of something more, to never be satisfied with where she is now. As soon as she discovered that she could see the world in her own way, it instantly became the main thing that drives her. Suddenly, she saw infinitely more than anyone could ever dream of, and no challenge was too great. There is, of course, a whole different conversation to be had around the unhealthy sides of that endless pursuit of perfection, something we actually explore with Azula, by the way. But in Toph's story, I don't think it's ever presented as something self-destructive or something like that. I rather think it's those slight imperfections we see with Toph that truly allow her to shape and mold her own personality. But looping back to sandbending as this catalyst for further development, I don't mean that in just a character and emotional sense, as if she failed sandbending and now she doesn't want to feel that.
Wait, shit, I don't have any more targets.
Very practical sense, because what is sand? Well, it's tiny speckles of earth, right? Put a pin in that for just a second, because in the Kyoshi novels, we hear about how Kyoshi struggle with bending anything that is smaller than like a boulder. Be it due to being, massive herself or some other bending work, her bending initially only worked on a massive scale, and precision was definitely not her strong suit. So clearly, there is also a separate skill curve, not just bending power, but also precision that enables other forms of bending power. In this case, sand bending. And so a follow-up question would be, what is metal? Yup, refined earth with tiny speckles of imperfections. My personal headcanon has always been that it's Toph's failure to protect Appa in the deserts that pushes her to constantly practice sandbending. We only see the end result on screen, but I think all of that is constantly happening in the background, just like she must have done with earthbending all those years ago. When we first see her attempt to sandbend, well, she can't really do, like, anything at all. By the time the finale rolls around, though, not only can she bend those tiny speckles of earth, she can shape them into something infinitely smaller, infinitely more intricate, and on a massive scale. I mean, she creates all of Ba Sing Se, including the Earth King and Bosco, with a single move. Like, that's not precision bending, that's like industrial grade laser gun subatom level 3000 IQ level bending. But okay, as much as I joke about it, I think it is that failure in the deserts that reminds her that raw strength isn't enough. Even her cold and tactical approach to bending might not be enough. The thing that can truly bring her to the next level is precision. And so with that in mind, let us once again move back to Book 2 and finally get to how all of that ties in with metal bending. I think to better understand Toph's arc, we must first consider its place in the broader narrative, because, like most of Avatar, we'd explored different sides of her struggles with different characters. What I mean by that is that typical duality we see with Aang and Zuko. Just as an example, take The Awakening. On Aang's side of the story, the entire emotional turmoil is around whether or not he should remain hidden. But on Zuko's side, we see Ozai congratulate him for bringing Aang down. Both of their stories are deliberately being mirrored and sort of play off of each other. That's what we see with most of Avatar. And so, shortly after reuniting with Appa and meeting the Earth King, all of Team Avatar get the letters that have been intercepted by the Dairi. Aang gets a message from the Guru, Katara and Sokka an intelligence report from their dad, and Toph gets a letter from, supposedly, her mom who is in the city. All of them would now be undergoing some kind of emotional turmoil or solving personal issues. Aang would be grappling with the Avatar states. Sokka would be forced to decide whether he wants to follow in his dad's footsteps, or rather, find his own place in the world alongside Aang. And Toph would, supposedly, be confronted by her feelings toward her family, who, even now, consider her weak. And on the opposite side of the story, we have Zuko, who too has just undergone a massive transformation. After the events of Lake Laogai, as Iroh puts it, his body and mind are at war with one another. There was such heavy cognitive dissonance that he's left bedridden for days. For what I'm getting at, and this is kind of spoiling my whole point, as seen by all of these other stories with the same exact themes, Toph's metal bending is not just a bending thing. All of it is about their own flaws and how they will confront them. Luckily though, I'm sure everything will turn out fine.
Everything is gonna work out perfectly from now on and forever.
As soon as she is captured by her two not-so-good friends, she is right back in that confined box her parents put her in. Literally. She is physically confined in an inescapable box that not even her mastery of Earth can escape, precisely as we saw in The Blind Bandits. Her parents saw her bending, they saw just how powerful and capable she was, but it still didn't matter, they wanted her to be in that box. She's confined, not just physically, but emotionally. Rather than succumbing to that confinement though, well, we all know Toph already. Once she slows down and really focuses in on what made her strong in the first place, comes evolution. She focuses on those teeny tiny imperfections in the metal and herself. Unlike traditional earthbending, it isn't this overwhelming barrage of massive rocks, or even Toph's signature precision style. No, metal bending is literally taking what's there and bending it by itself, to manipulate its own flaws and to shape them to what you want. Like I mentioned a second ago, I know that there are some people who look at metal bending, and even lightning bending to an extent, as just this extra power-up for certain characters. Personally though, I very much disagree. I think the reason why Toph grasps metal bending so incredibly quickly is because it is really the moment that she has been working toward her entire life, and doubly so ever since losing Appa. Metal bending is merely the bending form of constructing that facade that was the Blind Bandits. This isn't facing down a massive rock or flinging away your enemy. This is taking the flaws that are there and twisting them into something purposeful. People called her a blind little girl, and that's exactly what she leveraged. Everyone who underestimated her would have a very rude awakening. After a lifetime of bending those doubts to her will, I think her shaping something as unyielding as metal itself is the perfect visual representation of that constant struggle. And again, I think there is a very good reason why Toph's moment of enlightenment is paired with Aang's conversations with Guru and team.
All the efforts of one form bonds of the same whole.
In the same way Aang is grappling with the responsibilities of the world, the teachings of the air nomads, and his love of Katara, Toph too is sorta going back down memory lane to once again break out of that 8-box that people tried putting her in. The only major difference being that, where Aang's journey is about embracing the unbridled power of the Avatar states, Toph's is about embracing her own power. It's about realizing that those tiny limitations and imperfections, they can be bent. I think Toph's growth throughout the series can be summarized with just silent stoicism. From the first moment we meet her up until the aforementioned sandbending mastery, she was never satisfied with where she was, and she strived to improve.
That was the wackiest duel I've ever witnessed.
For shortcomings or just ignoring them because they don't affect her. No, it is about acknowledging them and shaping them for her will. Not to an extreme degree where it becomes obsessive, but purely as a form of self-improvement. Later in her Metal Bending Academy comic, she talks about how she's grown bored because there is no challenge anymore. She talks about how she is sick of just doing the same thing every single day. There is nothing interesting, nothing challenging. But all of that changes when she discovers a lava bender named Sun. It's about finding a new challenge and a new mastery to pursue. In this case, that isn't even about learning lava bending herself. It's just about guiding this young earthbender so that he can reach his full potential, just like she did all those years ago. And as with all good fantasy, all of this is just human drama wrapped up in a slightly shinier form. For Toph, I think all forms of earthbending, and especially metal bending, is a metaphor for self-discovery and growth. Much like her own character by the end of Book 2, metal is refined and it's unshakable. It bends to no one except her. It doesn't really matter that it's some magic and martial arts. At the end of the day, all of it is about exploring fundamental human fears and insecurities. Seismic sense might not be a thing for us, but the journey of trying to adapt to one's unique limitations and weaknesses is just the human experience. No magic required. We all go through that. It's okay to doubt yourself along the way, and it's okay to stumble. But at the end of the day, there are many things completely out of your control.
I feel like I'm forgetting something.
Inside is how you act on those things. And so I think of
Sucks, 'cause I'm supposed to
as
play
her
Genshin.
breaking herself down to its absolute finest form. In the desert, she is forced to face all of her weaknesses. Metal bending, on the other hand, is putting all of those tiny broken pieces back
I don't
together.
feel like doing
As
that.
Guru Patik says,
Oh, I
everything's
remember
connected.
now.
All of those tiny chips in her armor, all of her insecurities, she finds each and every one and bends it to her will. In the end, Toph doesn't just bend metal, she bends her own destiny and forges an undeniable legacy. Her heart and her will made full metal. And that's the video. No pressure to Netflix's adaptation.
Yo, Gravekeepers.
But, yeah, Toph is pretty cool. She has got, like, a lot of stuff going for her. Which, by the way, if you want to hear all of my up-to-date takes with all the casting and everything, I cover all of that on the second channel. Whenever new stuff drops, I am right there to talk all about it. Please, Netflix, just give them more episodes. Like, come on, make it good. Just give them more episodes. But anyway, with that said, all of my other socials along with the merch stores in the description. And with that said, I want to give a massive thank you to our current patrons and YouTube members who allow me to produce even more of these for you all. And let's also give a warm welcome to the newest members of the team: Karma V2O, Ashley Shade, Will, Harrison Neville, and Alex Goosh, I think. Without you, there'd be a whole lot less of my rambling, so seriously, thank you, thank you. Other than that, I want to say thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye!
These stupid descriptions are fucking